What's up, everybody? Welcome into A to Z Sports Picks. I'm Alan Bells, Brian Edwards. We're going to have a great show for you this Friday and get you ready for the betting weekend. Brian, we've got a loaded weekend of college basketball, NBA, the NHL, plus UFC, and we have a $20 million horse race this weekend.
We got a lot of stuff to cover, my man. Do us a favor. Please spread the word on the show. We're coming to you every Tuesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Central. Please spread the word. Hit the retweet button, the like button on Facebook, and help us spread the word via social media, etc. And let's get going, Alan. We got bets and ball games to cover.
Yes, we do, man. All right, so welcome into A to Z Sports Picks. I'm Alan Bell of CBS Sportsline alongside Brian Edwards of VegasInsider.com. A to Z Sports Picks is brought to you every Tuesday and Friday by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Download the BetMGM app right now, for real. Do it. Use promo code A to Z Sports, and you'll receive a risk-free bet of up to $600. All right, risk-free. What do you got to lose on that? You know what I mean? So that's BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years or older. Must be present in Tennessee. For gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789. All right. So, fellas, Brian, everybody in the chat, it's good to see you guys again. It's Friday. Everybody's been snowed in all week. I feel like the sun's coming out. We're going to I feel like that's a sign that we're going to hit some bets this weekend, right? You feeling good?
I'm feeling good, buddy. I was on a 16-2 run in the NBA, but went 0-2 last night. I had Brooklyn, the over, or I had the Lakers, lost the side, and I had the over, which was on a 21-3 run for Brooklyn, but it came nowhere close. It went way under. So, but I did go 3-0 in college last night. I had UCLA, BYU, and Ohio State, which is fire hot. I know we're going to talk about them a little more in a bit. They got a monster game on Sunday.
Nice, man. Like, you've been on a run, dude. And I know that you said, you went 0-2 last night. I mean, obviously those things are going to happen. But yeah, you've been on a nice run, man. And what we want to do, kind of perfect lead in right here, is we want to just kind of set up the weekend, right? Like, what's everybody betting on? What are the big games? What do we need to know that's out here? And let's just jump into that real quick. All right. So tonight, kind of a light slate in terms of big games. We've got the Jazz at the Clippers in the NBA. NHL, we've got the Blackhawks at Hurricanes, two teams obviously above 500. Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it. And let me say, Wensley, what's up, buddy? Danny, J-Mo, Farzador. I almost lost it right there. It's good to see you guys, man. We really appreciate you watching. And let us know what you're betting on this weekend, too, because, I mean, you know how we get down on Twitter. This is all about the community, man. We're all together. So, put it in the chat. Let us know what you're betting on. And, I mean, I'll probably ride with most of you on this. So I want to find some good bets out there. So Brian, we got Jazz at Clippers, Blackhawks at Hurricanes. Are you hitting on any of these games tonight? And is there anything else that we need to know about?
Yeah, I'm all over Utah again. I mean, they're just an automatic play until they buck me off, and they have been so good to me and everybody else backing them. Their last 21 games, dating back to January 8th, they are 20-1 straight up, 19-2 against the spread, and 18 of the 20 wins have been by double-digit margins. They are minus 4.5 at Staples against the Clippers tonight. Paul George remains out. We don't know about Kawhi. He's questionable, and Nicholas Batum. They both missed Wednesday's game when Utah won by double digits. Kawhi might be back tonight, but, if he gets back, the line will shift. So, if he gets downgraded, come tonight, Utah might be 6.5 or 7, where you can get him 4.5 now.
Yeah.
Flip side of that, Kawhi gets upgraded, Utah might go down to 2.5 or 3. So I went ahead and betted at 4.5. Yeah. And that's my pick.
Nice. Okay. So I was going to ask you this, right? So hit me with those two stats again. All right. So the straight up.
20-1.
Yep. 21 straight up. And then
19-2 against the spread.
Nice. Okay. So, all right. So those two. And go ahead.
18 of the 20 wins by double digits.
All right. So that's incredible. Okay. So what I was going to get into was like when you're setting up your weekend of, hey, I'm going to play these individual, I'm going to put this in a parlay, et cetera, things like that. Like they're almost, I mean, we're not going to say that, they're indestructible in terms of betting, but you could kind of play it a lot of different ways. Like you could play the spread, by itself if you want, and you could put that money line, in other parlays too. So what I'm getting at is I like that versatility to where you could play them in multiple different angles. And if you're putting it in parlays, if you have 3 parlays going tonight, say, 3 legs or whatever that you have, or for the weekend, you can mix and match. You could put them in 2 of them, and kind of feel comfortable. So, all right, that's a good stat to know, man. Real quick in the chat. Yeah. J-Mo, thoughts on NASCAR. We're going to get to that here in literally just a second. I've got some picks for you, some thoughts from Daytona. And we're going to hit on that really, really quick. Jared, your question on BetMGM without being a Tennessee resident. Austin got that. Yep, I'm totally with you. And J-Mo again. Danny, you're right. Yeah, straight up. Yep, that's the money line. J-Mo, over on the Pelicans. I'm going to get to that too. You hit on something that I'm going to hit on here in a little while. You're a smart man. You know what you're talking about. And Adam, he's got the Jazz money line and the Vols against the spread. Okay, all right. I like where you're going with that. How do you feel like mixing NBA college? Are there any issues that we need to know about? I mean, it's just straight parlays, right? You do that a lot, Brian? You ever mix?
I'll mix and match occasionally. Fortunately, I did my parlay with college only last night, and so it hit. I did have a reverse with Brooklyn and the over that. Or I'm sorry, the Lakers in the over that was a complete dud. But our guy, is it J-Mo talking about the over on the Pelicans? Yeah, that's my other pick that I really like tonight. The over's hitting 7 straight for New Orleans and is on a 15-2 run. And New Orleans was a juggernaut to the over last year. And then this year it came out with a ton of unders, not the last 17 games. They are rolling with them. And the over is also hit in 4 of Phoenix's last 5. And the last 5 combined scores for the Pelicans, 250, 257, 235, 273, and 245. And that number's sitting around 231. Yeah. So, J-Mo, me and you, I adore it, and you like it as well. Saying, Alan, over 130 or 231 for New Orleans.
I like it. And the reason I was asking about, obviously you can parlay different sports, but I have certain friends, like in my group text, that they legitimately won't bet parlays with multiple different sports, and I don't know why. It's probably just a kind of just a luck thing, I guess, with them. They're just superstitious about it. But it's funny seeing that where they're legitimately like, I keep my NBA together, I keep my NFL, whatever. So anyway, I find that funny, and it's everybody comes about betting a different way. So I always like just kind of peering into how people and their thought processes. I'm with it. Let's jump into Saturday. So we've got a ton. We're going to lead off. Obviously, we've got Kentucky at Tennessee. Tennessee just opened as a 7-point favorite against the Wildcats, but we've got a loaded slate across the board, and we'll talk about that game here in a second. But just breaking down everything that we see on the calendar, we've got UFC Fight Night. We've got Blades versus Lewis as the the headliner in that. We've got Vanderbilt at Alabama, Texas Tech at Kansas, West Virginia, Texas, Virginia at Duke. We've got the Heat at the Lakers, the Suns at the Grizzlies, the Preds are playing in Columbus against the Blue Jackets, and there's a $20 million horse race, and it's obviously it's the 2021 Saudi Cup, so it's international for sure, and you're not going to be able to find, in some states they just don't have, horse racing as legal bets, especially international right now, but just to take a look at a $20 million horse race, I mean, it's incredible. It's the world's richest race. And you've got horses there, that Bob Baffert has. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I mean, I always like those. I'm a big horse racing guy. I don't, I'm not one of those that's at a track, legitimately counting hoof, whatever. I don't think about that, but I mean, I do enjoy it. They're really, really fun. All right. So that's the slate for Saturday. So what are you looking at, man? What are you breaking down? What are you betting on?
Man, I'm looking at West Virginia catching 3 at Texas. So they had that overtime heartbreaker last Saturday against Oklahoma, but they had won 3 in a row prior to that. They're in revenge mode here. Texas went into Morgantown and got a late jumper by the kid that had leukemia a few years back, Andrew Jones. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, Andrew Jones. Yeah, he hit a late shot to beat a 3-pointer, and they won by 2. So West Virginia's in revenge mode here. They had control of that game with Texas most of the way, and They've had all week to prep, and Texas is only 3-8 against the spread at home. So I think West Virginia is the better team to begin with.
Yeah.
They're getting points, and they've had all week to prep, and they got revenge mode. Give me the Mountaineers +3 at Texas.
I like it. Mine is going to be the Kentucky and Tennessee. We were just talking about it. Now, let's break down Tennessee real quick. This team is inconsistent at best. And what I mean by that is it's almost impossible to bet with them, at least from the spread perspective. Tennessee basketball is the equivalent. If me and you were playing a game and I told you that either I'm going to hand you $50,000 cash or I'm going to push your car off a mountain. Like, that's the game. That's Tennessee. That's betting on Tennessee basketball, because you don't know what you're going to get, not only game to game, but you don't know what you're going to get first half to second half. We saw what they did against South Carolina the other night. I mean, both teams obviously were scoring, but Tennessee just went crazy in the second half. And what we were talking about is, with Tennessee, the best kind of mode right now might be overs, right? What were we saying? Kentucky's had 5 straight overs hit. I think Tennessee's 3-1 in their last 4. Was that correct?
Yeah, so the over has hit in 5 in a row for Kentucky, and 3 of the last 4 for Tennessee. And Kentucky's last 4 games have had combined scores of 160, 162, 161, and 153. And we're looking at a total of 130 and 1/2. I don't want to endorse the over like a strong play. I feel good about West Virginia. I feel good about the 2 NBA picks we talked about. Yeah. But it's definitely a lean, and I'll probably have a small play on the over. But just because it's so low, and they just played a few weeks ago, and I want to say it was an 82-73 game, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Kentucky?
Yeah.
Against Vanderbilt. It's 82-78.
No, I was talking about when Tennessee can play, but it was similar. It was like 82. It got in the 150s, and we're looking at a total of 130 and 1/2. And look, my criticism of Tennessee is they struggle to get buckets, and they play great defense. But 130 and 1/2 is a low number, especially compared to those combined scores I was just telling you about.
Kentucky. I mean, 130 and 1/2, that's essentially a 71-60 game, right? To hit the over, like 131. I'm with you. It's not something that I'm going to come out and pound my chest.
Right.
That's the play, but it's worth a little bit of a shot. And I also think betting live with either of these teams, that both of these teams give up a lot of points in the second half. Especially if Kentucky gets up to a lead. We saw what they did against Vanderbilt. We've seen it a couple times. I think Kentucky's getting better as a basketball team, but they haven't put it all together. So, whether from a live betting perspective or, if you can find, first half, second half, those type of bets. I feel like second half is going to be pretty high scoring. So I'm with you on that. Now, Danny talks about blades here in the chat in regards to the UFC fight. So you're our resident expert, man. What do you think about this fight? And not only the fight, what do you think about the card, but mostly, obviously, the main event?
The card it's decent. I don't have a ton of fights that I'm dying to watch on this card. But for the main event, man, Blades is great on the ground. He's a big time wrestler, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to implement his wrestling early and often. Look, he is 9-0 with 1 no contest in his UFC fights, with the exception of Francis Ngannou against fighters not named Francis Ngannou. Ngannou knocked him out twice, and Ngannou's about to fight for the title against Stipe. But look, Lewis, when you get him down, he doesn't stay down. He is so powerful. He's not fundamentally sound like in the wrestling room, but I mean, he finds a way to get up, and he has got a big advantage standing up. And Blades is an enormous favorite. At some places as much as -450 and even creeping close to -500. Derek Lewis, 3-0 in his last 3 fights, 12-3 in his last 15 fights, and he can end it. He can end the show with any punch at any time. Blades has a good chin, but Ngannou exposed it a couple of times. And Derek Lewis is like a +350 underdog. You cannot turn that down. It is Derek Lewis or pass. I'll be on Derek Lewis, not for a huge amount because you're going to get paid 3.5 times what you risk. But I'll be on Derek Lewis. I recommend him in the main event as a generous dog.
I like it. And jumping in the chat, the real Ryan 24 asks, what about fading teams coming off of COVID delays? So let me say this. As for NBA, as for college basketball, NHL, I couldn't tell you honestly because I don't know the trends in regards to that. But what I can tell you in the NFL season is that teams that were coming off delays like that were money. I mean, just absolute money. So I don't know if that translates to every single sport. Obviously, the NFL, you kind of only played once a week, but teams that were, just kind of postponed there for a little while, waiting on games. The Tennessee Titans being one of them. The Buffalo Bills came into town, and the Titans legitimately didn't even practice and blew them out. Now, we're just talking about one game, but in the NFL, it did have an effect, and it had the effect that I didn't think. So I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Any trends that you've seen in regards to it?
I think it's been a mixed bag. I know when the Gators came off of their break, which was more the Keontae Johnson thing in December, they played great their first time out, but it was at Vanderbilt. So maybe it was just the opponent. Now, they just came off this, what we hadn't played in like 12 or 13 days when we played at Arkansas a couple nights ago. Yeah. And just didn't – it looked a little sloppy, and Arkansas won and covered. So that's just examples with my Gators. But, I've seen other teams – not look good when they come back. Like Michigan came back, didn't look good in the first half, but then turned it on. That was last weekend. And so that was their first game back, and they ended up winning. So I think it's been a mixed bag. I don't know that there's been a decisive one way or the other where you're just like, okay, this team's coming back. Let's fade them. I think it's a mixed bag.
Well, that's good info to know, and we could pay attention to it. Hopefully we don't have any more that we have to worry about, considering that we got conference tournament and the NCAA tournament coming up. But just extended breaks as a whole, sometimes it's good. I think that really what you're getting at is that some teams really do benefit from not having practice, right? Like rest legitimately helps, and other teams that might be on a 6, 7, 8 game win streak, whatever. They might not want that break, right? Because so it's probably team by team. So we'll jump into Sunday real quick here. We've got a nice little Sunday set up. We've got Michigan and Ohio State basketball. We've got the Nets at the Clippers, NBA in the night. Plus we've got the NASCAR race, the O'Reilly Auto Parts 253 at the Daytona Road Course. So starting off with that. Anybody who bet NASCAR last weekend, you had a wild Sunday, right? Because you started, the race started 2:00 Central. We get about 14 laps in. We have a massive wreck that takes up a third of the field. Then we have the rain delay that lasts legitimately 8-9 hours. And then you had the race again at night. So it was crazy to see at the very end of, when McDowell ended up winning, you see a wreck of, 4 or 5 drivers and say 5 total. 3 of them were heavy leaders. Like you had, Keselowski out there, you had Logano, and then McDowell obviously ended up winning the race. But I love betting NASCAR, and I'm going to be back at it again this weekend. And I'll say this, I'm going to play. How many do I have? I've got 5 drivers I'm going to play this weekend, and I'm going to put different, amounts on the units. But I'm going to ride with Martin Truex. I'm riding with Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, and Denny Hamlin. I thought about going Kyle Busch as well. I might still do that, but those are kind of the 5 drivers that I'm looking at. So anybody that's betting, on NASCAR this weekend in the chat, put in who you're feeling, and if you've got any good matchups that you're looking at, we can talk about those for sure. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. So yeah, that's what we got Sunday. What do you think? It's not a huge day, but it's a nice day.
Look, I think the Michigan and Ohio State game on Sunday is one of the best matchups left in the regular season slate. I mean, Michigan's only lost once all year at Minnesota. Ohio State is absolutely on fire. I cashed with them last night at Penn State -4.5. I'm going to say Ohio State's probably going to be favored 3-ish, maybe 3.5. I would think 4 tops. Look, if they're 4 or fewer, I lean Ohio State. If they're like 2 or pick 'em, I love Ohio State. I think Ohio State gets it done at home and stays hot. But now Michigan's got a hell of a team. Has been playing terrific as well. Yeah. That's going to be a big time showdown on Sunday, and maybe might be the lead up to them a rematch in the Big Ten finals, perhaps, or even down the road in the NCAA tournament. And it may go a long way in determining whether one of them gets a number one seed in the tournament.
Yeah, that's a good point. And looking at the chat, Zach Goodman, he asked, can you talk about how inconsistent University of Houston is? And not to throw you on the spot, and we're going to get into this here in a little bit in terms of betting futures that are out there right now to win the tournament. But yeah, any thoughts on Houston? I mean, they're a fantastic team. And obviously, you look at the BetMGM app, which again, everyone download that app. And if you use promo code A to Z Sports, you get a free risk-free bet of up to $600. So I look at Houston. I'm looking at the futures right now. They're plus 1,400. Now, that sounds obviously high, but you look there, I think that's tied with Ohio State at plus 1,400, Texas plus 1,400. That's generally about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about the sixth, lowest odds. Right there, right? So, yeah, I'll throw it to you. Any thoughts on Houston? What do you think? I feel like this year might be the year that it could be anybody that could win this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think Baylor and Gonzaga are obviously the front runners, but I mean, there's definitely a host of other teams that could get it done. I haven't bet a lot of Houston games this year, so I haven't watched a ton of them, so I'm not going to act like I'm, an expert on them. I need to watch the Cougars more, a few more times before they get into the tournament. But just looking at the futures board, I got Ohio State at 25-1 a few weeks back. So obviously I'm at a better number, but I mean, 14-1. I mean, I think Ohio State's got as good a shot at anybody at winning the tournament. They're definitely going to be a 1 or a 2 seed, barring just a complete collapse here in the next couple of weeks. I give West Virginia a shot at 25-1. I give Illinois a shot at 20-1. But those, I mean, FSU is playing really good, but they haven't been to a Final Four since 72. Hamilton's only gotten them to the Elite Eight once. So at 16-1, I just can't. I have to see teams have had success in the tournament. And look, they might have had as good a shot at anybody as last year, but they didn't get that tournament experience because of the cancellation. So, yeah, just looking at the board, I would say the best value is West Virginia 25-1 or Illinois at 20-1.
Yeah, I like it. And I'll say this. I'll jump into mine, and I'm going pretty heavy into it right now because I think that there's a lot of value in kind of what you said. I mean, I think it's definitely going to be open. In terms of teams that can make a good run, I still do think, like you said, Gonzaga and Baylor are going to be heavy favorites, obviously. But I'm going to play it. This is how I'm going about it, right? So if you look, and I'll just break it down for everybody real quick, just kind of the top 8 or whatever. Gonzaga leads at plus 300. They're the favorite. Tied with Baylor at plus 300. Michigan comes in third, plus 700. Next, you have Villanova plus 1,100. Wisconsin plus 1,300. Ohio State, like we mentioned, plus 1,400. Houston, 1,400. Texas, 1,400. Florida State, 1,600. Alabama, 1,600. And I'll stop there. I don't read the whole thing, but here's how I'm going about it. So I'm taking a full unit on each. I'm writing Gonzaga plus 300, and I'm writing Baylor plus 300. So I'm going to take those two right now while I can get them at a plus 300 number because I think that their percentages are just going to be that much higher to win this tournament. But then I'm going to take 5 teams, all right, and I'm going to play it at 20% unit of each one, okay? And I've got a nice little mixed bag here. I'm not saying that these teams are definitely going to win, but they've got a shot, and especially if things kind of get crazy, all right? So like I said, I'm going a unit on Gonzaga, a unit on Baylor, and then I'm going 20% of a unit on Villanova plus 1,100, Michigan plus 700, Ohio State plus 1,400, and then I'm going to take 2 at the bottom. I'm going to take Loyola Chicago plus 4,000, and I'm going to take San Diego State plus 5,000. Now, the odds of them winning, which we're reading right here, is not very high. But
get to the Sweet 16, you can hedge for a profit. Bro.
That's what I'm saying. And that's kind of my approach. Is kind of how the NFL playoffs were. Well, just get there. You don't know what's going to happen. Look at the Bucks. Just get there, right? So that's how I'm going to play it. I'd love to see anybody's strategy of who they're looking at. Put them in there for sure. And you might not be looking at that right now, but the reason that we bring it up is that you do have value in this. So if you wanted to just ride Gonzaga and Baylor, if they're both sitting plus 300, legitimately you could take, if you think one of those two teams is going to hit, you could take $100 on Gonzaga, put $100 on Baylor. And if either of those hit, you're profitable. So, it's about playing those numbers and, just finding the value because as we get closer, it's going to drop for sure. Because I think a lot of these big teams right here are probably going to win their conference tournaments. So yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, anybody in the chat, National League, you've got UConn 50-1. Like, yeah, I'd love to see him. Like, whoever anybody is, kind of looking at, I'd love to see your thought processes on it.
Nashville leads. That's my buddy.
I love it.
He's saying that Bama still has value. What was the number we were looking at on Bama? 16-1. I got Bama at 40-1 more than a month ago, so that's why I did not mention them.
Team. Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I didn't interrupt you. Bama's a good team.
Yeah, no doubt,
dude. They're unbelievable. Like, they could put up points like crazy.
Yeah, and they've got Jordan Bruner, the Yale grad transfer that was playing really well in December and early January. They should be getting him back in the next 2 weeks, and that'll be a big boost for them as well. And Nashville Lee, I see he's also saying he's thinking Buckeyes -2, and I will like the Buckeyes if they are -2. And he meant, I'm reading Nashville Lee book nights, a game changer, averaging over 20 points a game. He was out for about a month, came back earlier this week. And Nashville Lee is endorsing UConn at 50-1. I know he's also got a Colorado ticket at long odds. Y'all give Nashville Lee a follow on Twitter. Really sharp guy.
I love it. And just looking in the chat here, Charles Hardaway, the Vols find an offense. Their defense is legit. I agree. Brian's been saying that for a while, obviously. And Tennessee, that's the crazy thing, is that they do have an offense, and they find it in games, but it's just randomly. Like, you don't know when it's going to happen, but when it does, it turns into just a second half scoring fest. They're dunking all over the place. This team is wildly talented. They're just inconsistent right now. But if Rick Barnes puts all this stuff together, they're a dangerous, dangerous team. If you have to face them, in the tournament. I look at J-Mo here, looking at the Road Warriors. AJ's got Michael McDowell as well. I agree. I think that, and there are people that are going to know so much more about NASCAR than I do. However, the track, obviously, and the road, it has so much to do with betting that. Obviously, Chase Elliott, I think he's going to end up being the most bet on driver this week. So, all right, so let's make some picks, man. Everybody wants to hear some picks. We want to make some winners. What we're going to do, Friday parlays, all right? Do this every Friday. It can be as many legs as you want. Hit us with those odds, payouts, what you got. So yeah, Brian, what parlay are you playing today?
Okay, so I already talked about how I'm on Utah Jazz -4.5. So in the parlay, I'm just going to go money line on them where they don't. That's as long as they get the outright win. Yep. So Utah money line. Let's go with Boise State money line. They are -1.5 to Utah State tonight. So I imagine -125 on the money line, maybe -130. Boise State they're undefeated in 11 home games this year.
Nice. That's a nice nugget right there. Boise State's undefeated at home.
Yeah, and now it hadn't been the toughest of competition, but I can't remember if they won that game by double digits the other night, but they had won.
Either way. Yeah, good.
Yeah, but the first 9 home games they won by double digits. Then they barely beat UNLV in the second game last week, and I forget if they won by double digits against Utah State the other night. I don't think they did. I think they won by 8 or 9.
That's a nice money line, like, to throw in. On a parlay. So, all right, keep going. Yeah, sorry.
So it's Utah money line.
Yeah.
Boise State money line, and then let's just finish it with the over on the Pelicans. So that's my parlay. I wanted one more NBA play that I'm looking hard at is the over 225.5 for Boston, Atlanta. My only hesitancy right now is Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker are both questionable. If they were to both be out, I wouldn't want to be on it. So I haven't played it yet. But if our listeners find out later today that if just one of them plays, I still like the over. If none of them play, I don't like it. I'm not saying to take the under, but Kemba and Jaylen being questionable is the only reason I haven't pulled the trigger on the over, which is hitting 6 in a row for Atlanta and 7 of its last 8. But that wasn't part of the parlay. The parlay is Utah, Boise, and the over on Pelicans.
I like it, man. Hey, we get extra nuggets from you. So Destin asked, any NBA bets on today's show? Yeah, you just talked about the Jazz. I've got one as well, and this will jump into mine. And my man Ali, he's saying he's riding Panthers Hurricane money line +127. I like it. Me and him talk a ton. Good friend of mine on Twitter. He's a great dude, great gambling guy. He's got a lot of good insights. So tonight, I'm riding a 3-leg parlay. All right, it's going to pay out +390. You like how I said it's going to pay out? That's the confidence that we need, right? So we're going to go Robert Morris at Detroit over 143. You look at Robert Morris, they're 5-0 to the over with 5 or 6 days rest. We're going to ride the Edmonton Oilers plus 1.5. I think that they could honestly outright win this game, but I'm going to put the juice with it. Edmonton 68% against the spread when they're avenging a loss against an opponent this year. And then I'm going to ride, like you're saying, NBA. I'm going to ride the Grizzlies minus 4.5. Memphis is 75% against the spread in its last 4 against Detroit. So not that I feel I don't feel too terribly great about the Grizzlies. Like I do think that they cover. I'm putting my money on it, obviously. So I feel somewhat good about it. But the first two, honestly, I feel really good about it. So yeah, that's the 3 that I have. Anybody else parlays that you're playing tonight? We'd love to see it, or anything that you got kind of set up for this weekend. Put them in. Again, this show is about all of us together. So yeah, would love to see those for sure. Now, before we move on, one thing that I wanted to say is this. So I play a lot of NHL for sure. The first goal scoring and anytime goal scoring, when you can find those, have been paying tremendously. And I don't know if you or anybody else out there that has been, kind of hitting those. The odds are really, really good. And you generally, it's not every time, but you generally in hockey have kind of the same guys that put up goals, at least in the first, right? So I don't know if anybody plays those or not. I've just started kind of recently digging deeper into them, and I found it profitable. So I would love to hear any thoughts of anybody else that's hitting those, what you've seen, any strategies, that you found with it. But yeah, for everybody out there, I'm not saying to go play a ton of them, but take a look at them because you can find some really, really nice odds.
Alan, I wanted to address the Real Ryan 24. He said he thinks we should zigzag with Boise State, beating Utah State the other night. And he's saying come back with Utah State tonight. I actually said the same thing on my buddy TJ Reeves' 3 Dog Thursday podcast we recorded Wednesday. I was thinking the exact same thing, but it was before I'd watched Wednesday's game. I came away very impressed with Boise, who I really think had kind of been in like a 3-week funk. They got swept in Reno by Nevada. Not that Nevada's got a pretty good team, but they just hadn't been playing it as well as they were playing back in December and most of January. But I think Austin looked good the other night. Max Rice was nailing 3 balls. I came away so impressed with Boise the other night that I've changed my mind from what I was thinking Wednesday. When I didn't know who the winner would be Wednesday, I was just saying to zigzag it because Boise has been a zigzag team. They covered against UNLV last Thursday or Friday, and then they did not cover when they played again 2 days later, whether it was Saturday or Sunday. So the zigzags have worked with Boise, but I'm not going to do it. I like how Boise played the other night. They're undefeated at home. I'm going to stick with Boise on that one, but I get your thought process there, Ryan. But I like it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. And Ryan, great point. I love bringing in the zigzags, right? Like I love that. Tennessee for a while was a team like that because you would legitimately get one Tennessee team on say Tuesday night, and then Saturday a completely different Tennessee team. Like there was a lot of strategy to go in with that. So I like that you brought that a lot. My man Damon Boswell in the chat. Pray for my parlay today. He's going all Trae Young props, 40-plus points, over 2.5 threes, under 9.5 assists, under 3.5 rebounds, plus 36,000 odds. All right, Damon, I'm praying for you, buddy. I want to see that hit, and if it does, we want to see you just collecting stacks of cash. Put those pictures in the chat for sure. Your man Lee says those St. Louis money line in there. John Bell says, give me a parlay. I got you, buddy. I'm going to run through mine again. Robert Morris at Detroit over 143. Edmonton Oilers plus 1.5. Grizzlies minus 4.5. That's my 3-leg parlay. Should pay you out plus 390. Ali asks, how do you feel about he's sitting on Utah Jazz minus 2.5 ticket? Feel good?
You should be feeling
that's the exact response.
Flipping standing, brother. Are you kidding me? Where did he get that late last night? Did they have it up at 2.5?
He must have. Yeah.
Good get, my man. You should feel wonderful about it.
I love it. So Destin Ortega brings up a great question. Okay. So what do you normally do with the free $10 bets that you get, when you first join, say, BetMGM? Okay. Do you normally play it safe? or do you kind of let a wild one ride, or would you even change your thought process? If Brian, if I were handing you a free $10 and you had to bet it tonight, and we've talked about the teams and the games out there, how would you go about that?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily try to hit a 5-teamer. Just if that's the only $10 you got in the account, but you win and then you get to build, just go with a little 2 or maybe 3-teamer. That's not an outrageous payout. I mean, we'd love to have outrageous payouts if we hit them all the time, but I mean, no, don't get too aggressive with it. Just throw you a 2 or 3 game parlay. Don't try to do like a 6-game one, because you're more than likely not going to hit that.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. That's exactly how I'd go about it. And I would look at it and say, okay, if I've got a free $10 bet, yeah, like what my entire goal, and obviously this is the goal anytime when betting, but my entire goal, especially with this one, is this thing has to win. So whatever I have to do to make sure that this bet wins, I'm doing that. If it's a 1-game individual, if it's a prop, I don't care what it is. Or if I'm playing a 2 or 3 leg, obviously you're going to get a bigger payout, but your risk is going to be much in there. But my thought process, kind of same as you, I have to win this bet. So whatever I have to do to win this bet, and if I could double up and attack it tomorrow, tonight, later, whatever, but I have to win this bet. So I'm with you in that. J-Bo says NHL is the only sport he doesn't bet. I've got a lot of friends that feel the same way. They don't bet NHL at all. And some of them are huge NHL guys, right? Or girls. Like, they watch a ton of NHL. They know exactly what it is. They just don't bet it. Some don't watch any NHL at all, and they kind of stay away from it. So I totally get that. It's a different betting game for sure. It's a lot like baseball. You've got to kind of have an idea. Matchups are obviously huge. Streaks, road trips, etc. Those are massive there. So I agree with you on that. So we're going to jump to our last segment here called Let Me Leave You With This. All right. So how sharp bettors approach making money. And it kind of goes into exactly what Destin was saying. What we want to do is we want to share some information, some trends, anything that we are seeing, we have seen, somebody, a bettor that we trusted has kind of taught us the game and spread this information. So it could be kind of anything. So Brian, I'm going to put it to you. What do you want to leave everybody with this weekend?
Okay, so and this mostly just applies like to UFC and baseball or boxing, and I'm talking about it from a UFC standpoint. Do not play super duper heavy favorites. Like, for example, the main event. Like, if you like Curtis Blades to win this fight, okay, are you really going to risk minus 450 to win 100? Because if you win it, great. But you know what? You have to go 5-1 at a 5-1 clip for every bet like that just to make a little bit of profit. So in the UFC, the thing is you can still bet on Blades, but not at minus 450. Like, you can bet on him to win by knockout or win by decision or win in a certain round, etc. So in UFC, do not bet heavy favorites. Now, if you're doing a UFC parlay with 3 or 4 legs, I'm not opposed to putting a fairly heavy favorite. Now, don't put a Amanda Nunes who's like minus 1,300 UFC 259 in a couple of weeks. I don't even know if that even helps.
It'd be like Nunes fighting me. Yeah.
Right. So anyhow, just don't eat heavy chalk in UFC. And if you're so confident in a fighter that you're willing to lay a minus 450, just go to the method of victory and you get a much smaller price.
Yep, I like that. That's good. All right, so mine is this, and we're looking at college basketball. We were talking about futures, we're talking about conference tournament coming up, NCAA tournament, everything. So I'm going to lay this out here. Since 2002, every college basketball national champion has had a top 20 efficiency defense ranking according to Ken Pom. Okay, so what I'm saying is this, and I'll read a couple of here in the top 10. Defense really does show up, especially in the tournament, and teams that have been playing good defense, coupled obviously with scoring in the regular season and in conference tournaments leading up to it. That's really where you're going to find your team. So if you're looking, like we just talked about, in terms of futures right now, that's where you're going to find your teams, right? So, and I'll go through the top 5 right now. Number 1, Loyola Chicago. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Tennessee. Number 4, Memphis. Number 5, Baylor. Gonzaga 6, Michigan 7. So you're going to see your teams right there. Now, picking a team that's going to win the national championship right now, obviously difficult. Gonzaga, obviously, and Baylor, like we talked about. But if you look at these teams, this is the kind of data that I really do enjoy seeing, especially when there are historical trends that far. We're talking back to 2002. This is almost 20 years. Okay. So when you're taking a look at these teams, not only in futures bets, but when you're looking and comparing once the tournament gets here and you're looking at the round in 64, 32, 16, etc., use this information because it really does kind of lead you down the path. Obviously, you got to play spreads and things like that. But if you're just looking at winners, especially we're talking about parlays, and I love playing those in the tournament, especially because you could get favorites with not a massive amount of juice because they're generally playing pretty good teams as well. So that's what I'll leave you with. Take a look at that. Notice that those kind of trends, they hold up. So that's all we've got for you today. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, just let me throw out a couple of injury updates that I'm just seeing on Twitter. Kawhi is still questionable. I thought Paul George was definitely out. It says he's now questionable. Jaylen Brown still questionable. Kyle Lowry questionable. I thought Mike Conley was out for Utah, but it says he's questionable. So we may get Paul George for the Clippers, but we may also get Conley back for Utah. Doesn't change my stance. Still all over Utah. Draymond Green's questionable tonight. Steven Adams doubtful for the Pelicans. Will Barton questionable for Denver. And just one other thing I wanted to throw out. Illinois is -5 at Minnesota. Yeah. The Gophers have been money at the barn all year long as they are 13-1 straight up and 9-4-1 against the spread at home. However, Gabe Kalsher is out 3 to 4 weeks. He averages 9.2 points per game, and their big man Liam Robbins is probably going to play, but he is bothered by an ankle. So a couple of things to just keep in mind there. But Minnesota as a home dog, injuries or not, is a little bit attractive to me. They've been money at the barn all year.
I like it. I like anything that we're betting in a barn. All right. I'm all into that. I'm going to ride that one tonight. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you participating in the chat, jumping in. And it doesn't end here, right? So find us on Twitter, A to Z Sports, Brian Edwards, Alan Bell. Find us, talk to us, tell us what you're betting on, show us what you've got. And if we've got a pick that you don't like, shoot, tell me. I'll ride with you on yours. Let me know what you guys have. But we sure do appreciate you guys checking in with us. And we'll be back Tuesday. But everybody, best of luck this weekend. And let's cash some tickets.